Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good noon, wherever you're located around the country. My name is Steve Sargent, and I'm joined by Marvin Crossnow, and it's our pleasure to talk to you today and demonstrate solutions to some of the accounting challenges that are unique to performing arts organizations, primarily and starting with reconciling ticket sales coming out of Tessitura. So before we uh, begin, though, let's talk about some housekeeping items. This presentation's for information only. Believe me, we have to make all the attorneys happy, right? Uh, we're going to do our very best to give you nothing but the truth and the unvarnished truth, but there are people that are smarter than the two of us who do actual implementations. And so if you have questions that require extra help, we can certainly line those up. And this presentation is proprietary and copyrighted. So with that out of the way, I sure hope you can hear me. If not, or if I'm coming in a little bit faint, please adjust the volume on your PC. Uh, at the end, and I'll remind you of this, there is a survey. If you would fill that out for us so we can have input on what we should do better, maybe other things we should cover and things like that. And there's actually something in it for you. Along with your other fellow attendees, you will be in a drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card. We will also send to everyone a copy of these slides as well as a recording. So if you saw something interesting that you'd like to share with a teammate, that will be available to you. If you have questions, you're all in listen only mode. So if you talk, we can't hear you, I'm afraid. But if you will click on the button to ask a question, in the upper right, you see a box that looks like a call out bubble in a cartoon, if you will, and has a question mark in it. If you'll click on that, you can submit a question. And we have someone online who's monitoring those, and we will do our best to answer them as they come in. Again, a $25 gift card in it. So once we conclude, please don't immediately sign off, but fill out the survey. It's real quick to do. So without further ado, let's begin our session and talk about reconciling ticket sales and how to make that less painful. As we talk with other Tessitura users, the things that we've heard over the years are things like the following. It's the 12th day after the end of the month and we still haven't closed. The spreadsheets are just taking too long, and if you're in management or perhaps the board, I don't understand why it needs to take so long. Our ticketing workbook has 47 tabs. That's why. It's very complicated and only one person on staff knows how to do it. I sure hope they don't get sick or take some vacation or quit in disgust. The auditors asked us how revenue ties out, so we had to pull an all-nighter to document everything we do. And to be honest with you, they're still uncomfortable because it's tough to document and prove repeatability in something that happens in a spreadsheet. So these are, in general, some of the things that we're going to be talking about solutions for. Now, of course, ticketing is the lifeblood of your organization. Nothing happens unless you have that steady stream of income, of course. But that causes a problem for accounting. Tessitura does a great job about selling those tickets and managing the seats and the donors, etc. But if you're not in accounting, you may not understand or appreciate the difficulty with getting everything in the right place in the accounting system to produce the kinds of results that you need to manage the organization effectively and really know how you're doing. And we'll talk about some of that. But because of those difficulties, you lose several days. Accounting loses days of their lives because they're having to do all this reconciliation. You, on the other hand, if you're in management or on the board, have to wait an extended for several days for that close to happen. And maybe you're just wondering, how did a concert or an event that we had 2 weeks ago. How did we do in that particular performance? Well, that's not so easily answered, believe it or not. And so you have to wait until the month end is closed. It's a common point of failure for the audit trail. Now, we'll talk about what an audit trail is and so forth. We're not suggesting, of course, that you routinely fail audits, but auditors just love it if there is an audit trail they can see who changed, what they changed, what the previous value was, and they know that you have put steps and tools in place to avoid any shenanigans, shall we say, in handling the money and the accounting, and that everything is repeatable and reliable. Performance level reporting. This is the tough nut to crack, attributing all the right income and all the right expenses to each performance and then reporting on that. And we'll show you how that happens. But first, let's talk about your environment, the two worlds that don't communicate. Sometimes this results in fights and arguments between accounting and ticketing. But of course, all the tickets are sold and managed, and the seats and all that kind of thing is managed very nicely in Tessitura. And then on the accounting side, you have your books of record, what they're called. Things like the general ledger, accounts payable, maybe payroll, and you need to produce these performance level profit and loss reports. So how does the data get over there? Well, that's the problem. The answer is it's a mess. We'll talk more about what that might look like in a moment, but it involves spreadsheets and going back and trying to reconcile and trying to figure it out. And it's just complicated. I really wasn't exaggerating when I said something about 47 tabs in a spreadsheet. They can get awfully complicated. So you manually export all the data from Tessitura, you pull it into Excel. If you're a spreadsheet whisperer, maybe you know how to create fancy, complicated formulas with commands like VLOOKUP and things like that. But once you finally figure it all out, then you have to make manual journal entries. And again, there's no audit trail to really document exactly how you got to the numbers that you got to. And that's really only talking about the revenue side. If we're talking about a profit and loss, then we also have to account for the expenses coming from primarily accounts payable, maybe payroll too. And so we can accommodate that as well. So how do we get the data over from Tessitura into the accounting system? Well, the old way, that probably is what you're doing now, is you download a spreadsheet of all the ticket sales from Tessitura. That's represented by the little window here in the back where my mouse is moving. From there, you pull it into your fancy schmancy spreadsheet with all those tabs and formulas and so forth, and you try to figure out and sort out how many tickets for this performance, how many for that, how do I allocate season tickets, and what about people that didn't show up on Friday but came Saturday instead, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, regurgitate that, maybe do a lot of rekeying into a format that your general ledger can accept and bring them in as journal entries. And if you're doing this routinely or regularly, many of our clients do this every single day, that's hours of work that may constitute the biggest part of your day if you're in accounting. So those of you who are not are just beginning to get the tip of the iceberg about what the challenges are. So days of work, there's no audit trail, and you just have to hope that that one person who understands that spreadsheet doesn't leave. So have you ever seen the commercials that Office Depot used to run, pushing the big red easy button? I hate to trivialize it, but that's pretty much the way it is in our product. And you basically push a button. All along, we've been pulling in information, or we will pull in at a click of a button, all of the ticket information coming over from Tessitura. At the same time, we have facilities so that you can associate the appropriate expenses from accounts payable and maybe payroll as well. to the performances. And so all the data is there. We can generate that report right away, and anybody, even a dumb sales guy like me, can press the easy button and it's there, and there's a full audit trail. So Marvin, can you back me up here and show everyone what the pulling that data from Tessitura looks like?
Sure, Steve. So in our demo today, we're going to be working in basically three companies: the MRC company, Opera Texas, and Putnam. So we'll go to Opera Texas and push our easy button. Our easy button is down in the accounts receivable under invoicing. And so here we have, these are all the new invoices listed here that we're going to import from Tessitura. So we're going up and hit the Tessitura easy button here. There are some parameters here that we will that we have to fill in, but we can memorize those. We pull data in from Tessitura by posting number. So in this case, I need to put in some posting numbers, and the ones that I want to put in are 5039, and I'm going to pull in about 10 or 11 of these with an ending posting number of 5050. So that will give approximately 10 days of postings if you're closing out a posting number every day. So as we do that, all we need to do is hit the next button. And this is easy because it's going to take 9 invoices, so 9 days of transactions in a typical form. And now we just wait a few seconds. You'll notice that posting number 5039, it will not let us duplicate, and I did that on purpose so that I can show you that you can't download the same information twice into the Activity HD system. But besides that, it will take the other 9 invoices and pull them in. And I can finish that up. And so there's 3, 6, 9 invoices. There are 8 of the 9 invoices came in, and we can look at them. So here is the first one. What we do is we bring this into the accounts receivable system as a cash sale. So this is the information down here at the bottom where we're pulling data in from Tessitura. We're creating an invoice for handling fees, for ticket sales, for subscription sales, and things like that. So we're creating this information from the revenues and bringing it in as a cash sale. Now, basically, I'm finished. I have no more work to do for those 8 days of transactions or 8 posting numbers that we have pulled into Tessitura, pulled in to our accounting system from Tessitura. And think how easy that was. And I really didn't have to know very much. All I need to do is push the easy button. Now I said we're almost finished, but I'm going to turn this back over to Steve for a minute to talk about revenue recognition, because there is one more aspect of it that we need to take care of. Steve?
Thanks for backing me up, Marvin. Yeah, that easy button is so simple, even I could do it, I guess. So what comes next? Well, we already gave you a preview. Let's talk about revenue recognition. This is one of those things that sounds maybe trivial to someone who is an accountant, but if you are an accountant, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When is money an asset and when is it a liability? What do you mean by liability? Well, take a look at this calendar, if you will, this chart. So we start selling tickets for months in advance of a concert. You know, when you buy a toaster oven from Amazon, Amazon cannot invoice you or recognize that revenue until they actually ship or deliver the product, right? It's the same with a performance. And they've taken your money back in October, but until you attend the performance or until the ticket is used in February, when the performance takes place, we can't recognize it. However, we do need to account for it. It goes into the system as unrecognized revenue, which is a type of a liability. And so let's say that Beethoven's Fifth, we perform we have 3 different performances of the same concert, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, perhaps. And so as each performance happens, we need to take the appropriate amount of money from the ticket sales and move them into actual revenue. Okay, easy enough, maybe. Well, wait a minute. What about season tickets? I didn't just buy one season ticket for Beethoven's Fifth. I bought tickets to your entire concert season. So I've got to figure out how much of my season ticket revenue needs to be allocated to each performance of each concert. What about a multi-performance? I can't attend Beethoven's Fifth, so I'm only going to buy Scheherazade and Tchaikovsky's 1812. And so I bought a multi-package. Same concept, right? I've got to figure out how much revenue to recognize at each performance. Well, Steve originally bought a ticket to Scheherazade for Friday night, but it turns out he can't make it. He can't get his babysitter lined up. And so he's coming on Saturday anyway. And so he does an exchange. Okay, another twist to the plot here, something else to account for. He changed performances. So it just gets more and more complicated as time goes on. So how do you do that? Well, today it's that, remember that big messy arrow that was representing a spreadsheet and so forth? That's how it's done today. Marvin, show us how it can be done in our product.
Sure, Steve. So in order to look at revenue recognition, I want to introduce something else first. I want to introduce this. This is sort of a trial balance. This shows every single activity for the months January, February, and so forth throughout the year. And if I wanted to get more information like on deferred subscriptions down here, I can click on that number. I can drill down into the accounting system for one of those, and it shows me all the postings behind it. So this is all the accounts in the chart of accounts. But in order to show you what happens with deferred revenue and revenue recognition, I'm going to filter this list from all accounts down just to the deferred revenue, the deferred accounts and the revenue accounts. So up here in the top left-hand corner, or up here in the top, I'm going to look at all of my accounts that have to do with accumulating the liability for the ticket sale and the revenues for that ticket sale. Now, these are the postings that we just brought in from Tessitura. And right now, they're not recognized because they are what we call unposted. They are new invoices. And so when we bring information in from Tessitura, it doesn't go immediately into the accounting system. It actually goes into a holding area so that you can review it and approve it. But once it's reviewed and approved, we can post it. Now, the reason I wanted to bring up the revenue and the deferred accounts at the top is because when I actually make this permanent, in other words, I post these temporary invoices that I brought in from Tessitura. Once I merge those and make it permanent, then I can no longer change it. It is part of the accounting system. So I'm going to just take a couple of 3 of these to begin with, and let's take the first 4 and let's merge those. But as they're merged, I want you to watch the revenue move into and out of the deferred areas and into the subscription sales area. And we have something in Activity HD called a active database, so you can see this happen as it happens. So I'm going to merge these particular invoices, and if you start looking up here, you'll see the revenues merged. And so what it will happen now. So watch these numbers up here as those get processed. And if you look closely, you'll see some numbers change up here. There you saw some numbers change, and I just did half of them so that you can sort of get used to looking at what you're seeing. But did you see all those numbers change and our subscription sales increase at a particular point in time where that revenue is recognized? So we'll do the same thing again, just so you can maybe adjust your eyes a little bit. So we'll merge this data and as it's merged here or posted, those are two words for the same thing, you'll see the revenue being recognized and those numbers change before your very eyes. So that 191 went to 193, that 193 is probably going to go to 193.4. So as the documents are actually put into the working accounting system, we account for the deferred revenues. Now, let's look at one of those invoices just to see how that happened. I'm going to go away from new invoices, and this is one of those that we just brought in. And we do that in something called extra GL. So this is the invoice that I showed you earlier, but if you look at the extra GL, this is all of the postings that will be made into the accounting system where it initially goes into deferred, and then on the date of the performance, 5/9 of 23, it comes out and goes into subscriptions. Or down here, this is the deferred line, and this is the subscription line for that particular presentation. So as those invoices are extracted from Tessitura, all of the information is on the Tessitura download. So not only do we get the sales, but we also get all of our deferred revenues, and we also get something else as a bonus, and we get some receipt detail that you can later go in and balance your bank statement. So we're getting basically three things, and these three things will float throughout the system. In a few minutes, we'll start talking about financial statements. So your income went to the financial statement, your deferred revenue also went to the financial statement, and your receipts went to your bank reconciliation software. Okay, Steve, so that's what we do. We bring the information in from Tessitura, and all at the same time, all of your accounting is done very efficiently, and almost anyone can do it. It's just an easy button. Push that easy button. Steve?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Marvin, but isn't it true that on the date of each performance, there's no even easy button to push? Doesn't Activity HD automatically move it out of deferred and into the revenue account?
Yes, but it doesn't wait until the date of the performance. It just posts because an accounting system should be able to take postings into the future fine. So we're just posting into the future on whenever that invoice comes in from Tessitura. We don't do anything on the date of the performance.
So there's no day after hangover, if you will, in accounting to have to figure out how much to move and when to move it. Great.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that was revenue recognition. So we're going to put on our management hat, or maybe even our board of directors hat. I have a very simple question. How did the Mozart concert do? That was last night, and I'm calling or emailing this morning for that information. And what I have in mind, this is a real simplistic example, but how much revenue, and did we take any donations last night? How much were the single ticket sales versus the season tickets and so forth? And what about those expenses? So how did we do means, did we make any money or did we not? Well, Marvin just showed you how easy it was to get information from Tessitura in, and how that revenue is automatically realized. And because of my reporting date, it pulls it from the revenue accounts. And so within seconds, I can answer that question. And in fact, if you want to avoid the phone call altogether, we'll talk about this more later on, but you could schedule these reports to automatically go to the inboxes, the emails of all the people who ask you for this all the time. Maybe you can sleep in the morning after if you're the accountant. And you can do this reporting on any level that you want to, by performance, by production, like Scheherazade, for example, with 3 different performances, or by season. So lots of different reporting capability. Now, I said that this report over on the right is a very simplistic example. So your reports can be just as fancy and sophisticated as you like. And in fact, here's a statement, and Marvin is going to back me up on this. If you can imagine it or create it, if you have time to create it in Excel, we can do that. Why? Marvin's going to show you in just a minute. The answer is interesting. Marvin, take it away.
Sure, Steve. So let me share my screen again. And what you're looking at is all or some of the financial designs for this Opera Texas company. And so we use Excel as our reporting mechanism. Now that's much different than all of our competitors. Our competitors typically have some sort of a report generator, and then you export it to Excel, or you generate an Excel spreadsheet from it. That's not how we work. We design our financials in Excel, and you can use Excel to look at the financials. So I'm going to go in and look at the income statement by production and by performance. So if I will open the workbook, and this is how our financials look as you present them to your internal or external people. So this is Opera Texas, and we had a production of Rigoletto in November of 22 and Detoche Stadt in March of 2023. And so these are the subscriptions. All of this came from the Tessitura side, single ticket sales. All of your expenses came from your accounts payable system and so forth. So you have a financial statement that all you need to do is just produce it. Now, since Rigoletto had more than one performance, we can use Excel. And so this shows each performance and how each performance did. Now, the revenues for those performances, since they came from Tessitura, are defined. Now, many times, things like all of your expenses, you know what the total is for the production, but you don't know what the total is for each individual performance because it doesn't make any sense. Now, you can allocate those dollars by tickets sold or by the revenues or things like that in order to get an estimated per performance, but the per production is certainly set in stone. So you can show these the various performances, and you may have 10 or 15 of these spread out across the stage or across the workbook. But something even more interesting about the way we work with Excel is not only can you design your financials in Excel and report in Excel, but every one of these numbers is drill downable. So I can click on this number and I can drill down to the underlying postings from my accounting system. So here are the subscriptions sales. Here are my single ticket sales for the production Rigoletto. And if we go down to the expense side, we can also drill down on the expense side. So let's take a look at these professional fees down here. So we'll look at professional fees. We want to look at this particular professional fee for $6,300. So we can drill down on that professional fee for $6,300. We might want to look at this $5,000 here. So we bring up that $5,000. We look at the accounts payable invoice. We can double click on that accounts payable invoice, see the details on the invoice, and we can go all the way back. And here is a scanned image of that particular bill from our provider. So not only do we design our financials in Excel, not only do we produce them in Excel, but all of the numbers in every one of these financials is drilled downable to the underlying detail, all the way back to the original documentation for any particular line on the financial statement. So that's how we involve Excel in the financial reporting. It is not a end user tool that that's your final production stage. It is the originating stage, the final production stage, and at any point in that lifetime, you can drill down and work with the original documents that make up that financial design. Okay, Steve, we'll have some more examples later, but that is how we involve financials and quickly show your financials.
Excellent. So the reason we can do anything Excel can do is because we're using Excel, right? That's where we design it. And isn't it cool that instead of coming to accounting or having to wait for accounting to get back to me with an explanation about a number that doesn't make sense to me, I can look myself. All right, next topic then. Let's talk about more than tickets. So as accounting knows, you have some extra burden that the ordinary business doesn't have. In addition to some of the things we're about to talk about, you have to deal with things like fund accounting, restricted funds, grants, endowments, and you need to figure out what's what and where the money can be used and all those kinds of things. So this is a full ERP system that lets you do all of those things. Now, we won't be covering everything that I just mentioned. We won't be covering all these fixed assets and payroll and bank reconciliation, all those kinds of things. But we want you to know that all of those are there should you want to take advantage of them. What we are going to cover today are these topics. Excel financials we got into a bit. We'll look at that a bit more. Graphical reporting, Marvin also gave you a little tidbit of that with that little bar chart, but you can do even more there. So let's talk about Excel financials. So again, the statements are built in Excel, not a separate report writer. They're live numbers. You remember when he was bringing in the data from Tessitura and showed you that they were being reflected as we go immediately, and the drill down. So if you can do it in Excel, we've got it covered. Marvin, do you have more to show there on this particular topic?
Sure. So let me share my screen again. I've got a couple more examples just to sort of give you a flavor of what all we can do. One of the things that Steve mentioned is that we have a statement that we say, if you can imagine a statement that you want to build in Excel, and that information is coming out of your accounting system, your general ledger, you can produce it. And as Steve said, the reason why we can say that is because we are Excel. And we have functions that we build into Excel to extract data out of the accounting system and put it into a cell on this spreadsheet. So let's look at a couple of examples. Let's look at a 12-month income statement. So this is one that we imagined. We imagined that we could produce a statement that lines up all of our revenues and expenses on a month-by-month basis. So this is July, August, September, October, and so forth. And here is the year to date if we want to put this as of a specific date. So we can go in here and have an as of date of say 02/28, and what is the year here? 2/28 of 23. So we might not want everything shown there. And I need that date to be 02. I think I'm not doing the right thing. We don't need to do an as of date. Let's just leave that blank. But let's remember that every number on here is drill downable to the underlying detail and drill backable to the originating AR invoice in this case. And this is a Tessitura invoice. So that's where the revenues came in. So we build financials of any type and variety that you want. So this was an income statement by month. Here's another one that would be interesting to you, perhaps, and that is something like your functional expenses. So here's another workbook that can be helpful in preparing your 990 reports and things like that. So here's before allocation, here's an allocation disbursement, and here's an after allocation. So again, if you can imagine it, you can produce it. So how are these built? I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes showing you how we build these financials, because if it's possible, but it's impossible to do from a practical standpoint, maybe it's not so easy. So let's just go in and let's start building a brand new financial. So let's just call this a new financial, and we'll give it some description. We go into a workbook and we open the workbook and we give it a point in time. Let's give it a point back in 2022 because I don't have current data here, September of 2022. So if we want to build a workbook, we could go up and we can say, I want to put the company name up here at the top. So the company we're working in is Opera Texas, but since this is really Excel, we can go to the home button, we can make that bold, we can make it red, we can make it a lot bigger. And so we put the title of our company at the top of the presentation. So we go down to the next line and maybe we put the date that we're going to be involved with. So we chose that date, March of 2022. So now we'll put the date on here. So this is a period in March is the third month of our fiscal calendar is September, not March. So we put that date on it. We go over here to the left and we may put the description of an account. So we can put the account description. And now since I'm not familiar with this chart of accounts, then we're going to use this account 1000A. So we can put the account 10000-00-A, and that is the vector operating account. So we have placed that on our spreadsheet, and then over here somewhere we could put the balance of that account. So we can put the account, not that formula, but one of our financial formulas, the balance, and so you can put the period and the GL dot account, which is equal to 10000. I think I got one too many zeros there, dash A. And so there is the balance of that account on that date. But since this is a financial design, and I have Excel, I'll go format it. I can drill down and look at it. There's all the postings. So as I build the financial, I can also check the financial and see the postings behind it. So this is how we build financial statements. We also have the ability to do it easier than one cell at a time like this. We can go into our financial and use some wizards. And so here is a layout wizard of building a balance sheet. And in this case, it will do a lot of the work for me. So I'll build a detailed balance sheet here. And so it will go out and it will put all the formulas in. Now, when we build it this way, we've got to do a little bit of work on it because this put all the formulas in. I don't have to know those formulas. It put the formulas in, but I need to do some aesthetic work. I need to maybe group these things together, put in the current assets, long-term assets, and all of that into my, so I need to work on it, but everything that I need to do to it, I don't have to go read a reference manual. I already know how to do it because I know how to build Excel spreadsheets. So I can split apart some rows here, put in some free space. I can sum these columns up and go to my Excel spreadsheet here, and then I can put a upper top border on it, and I can put a dollar sign on it, but you know how to do it. You don't have to be trained in how to do it. So we can build Excel spreadsheets one cell at a time. We can use the wizard to build Excel spreadsheets, but we have recently experimented with something else, and I want to show you how that works because we can describe to our, I'm going to just save this, instead of me having to go into Excel and exercise my Excel skills, I can actually just describe to the Activity HD system what I want to build, and it will build it for me. So let's go into our financial designs here. Let's go to, I think I want to go down here to a different system since I don't have the work up there. So let's go to general ledger. Let's go to our financial designs. So I'm going to go in here to some, we wouldn't have a good presentation if we didn't involve AI somehow. So I'm going to use artificial intelligence to build a financial for me. Rather than me having to build it directly in Excel, I can just go in and make a few statements and describe to AI how I want to build it, and it will build it for me. Now, it takes a few minutes to do so, so I'm going to start it up here, and I'm going to let Steve introduce the next topic, and probably by the time he introduces the next topic, this will be finished. But let's go through here and explain what's happening. So we will create a new financial in Excel. I'm going to create a, let's do a hard one. Let's do a cash flow statement. And I'm just going to call this cash flow. And just say, I want a indirect method cash flow statement showing current period and in one column. Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't make any difference. I could just say, give me a cash flow statement, but I want to be a little more specific. So I say, show the current period in one column and a year to date in a column to the right of the current period. Okay, that's enough. So I'm going to say, okay, it's going out to AI, spend a couple of $3. And Steve, by the time we come back, I'll bet we have a financial design.
It'll be cool to see. So just talk to it. Don't even have to press that easy button, maybe. Okay, so financial statements, and we'll see what Marvin or what the AI created for us here in just a moment. Graphical reporting, you got a flavor of that. Remember, though, that all these charts are driven by live data. So if someone entered an invoice when someone is looking at a report, it's all there. And so dashboard, you can create dashboards, any number of different charts and graphs that your people may need to see. Schedule those, put them in their inboxes. And as we've shown you earlier, they can drill down on any of them, including a chart, not just a number. They can drill down on a chart to see what goes into that. Marvin, you want to show us some of those things?
Sure. Let me get my screen back here. Okay, so here are some graphs, and we just made up some things. This is non-operating revenues. So over here is a graph that we've built, and over here is salary and union wages. But the interesting thing about these graphs is that they're not only pretty pictures, but I can take anything here and drill down just like I did from the spreadsheet. I can take any number on this financial design, drill down and look at the underlying detail. So over here in my salaried wages, I have all my salaried wages here that I can drill down on. If I go to, let's go over here into the CFO's, the CEO's design, and here are some expenses that maybe the CEO wants to examine some expenses. And so we can maybe look at a travel expense in November here. So we can look at this travel expense. Let's go look at this rental car expense, and let's look at the AP invoice that we bought this rental car expense through. So this is actually an Amex charge. If I go look at the attachments, in this case, I have a lot of attachments because my Amex bill paid for a lot of things, but one of the things that it paid for is that number that came straight off the spreadsheet. So not only can I drill down from financial information in Excel spreadsheets, but I can do exactly the same thing in exactly the same way and take a pretty picture and let the CEO or the CFO or department managers work from pictures rather than from Excel spreadsheets. So that's the great advantage of using graphics in presentations rather than, and this graphic package is built into Activity HD. It's not something to add on like Power BI or other graphics packages. Okay, Steve, while you go to the next, I'm going to see how we're doing in our work with letting AI build our product.
Right. It occurs to me that some of your board members may be musicians and retired directors and so forth. Financial statements may not make a lot of sense to them, but perhaps you can create dashboards, charts, and graphs which will, and answer their questions very efficiently and in a friendly manner. So graphical reporting, change log. Now, we mentioned this earlier. Remember I said it's that ticketing was a common point of failure as far as a change log goes. Why? Because all that reconciliation is taking place offline, if you will, in a spreadsheet. Here within Activity HD, we are logging everything that happens, whether it's a new entry, a change on something, a new check, a new invoice, what have you, who entered it, what did they enter, and when. Now, that's good for you because it does mitigate shenanigans in accounting. Number two, if you look at a number and you say, that just doesn't look right, who changed that or who entered that? And maybe I can go to that person and find out what, maybe there is no attached document or something like that, and I need to ask about it. Hopefully I can answer it because there is an attached document. But if I want to know what was there before, that may actually be the valid number, I can see all that side by side, before and after. And it's searchable across every module. In other words, we log everything that happens throughout the system. Auditors can answer their own questions. So instead of hassling you, they can click through and see what went into a number or a financial or a chart or anything else. And they're not just looking for assurance that the numbers on your financials are real. They're looking for procedures and processes that are reliable, that have been audited and logged, and that you have controls in place so that any kind of malfeasance is very difficult to do and easily proven about who did what. Marvin, would you show us the change log?
Yes, I will, Steve. And I didn't get my video to share screen quite up in time. So let me share my screen again. So I'm going to show the change log. I'm going to do something very simple. I'm in my vendor table here. I'm going to add a new vendor, and that new vendor is going to come up, and I'm just going to add a simple vendor, ABC Company. And spell. And I will save that new vendor. I'll go into the new vendor and I'll add a location. So I'll add a new location here. And that new location is the main location. At 123 Main Street, Dallas, Texas. That's good enough. Okay, so I've just added a new vendor and a new location. All right, so let's go look at our admin view of the system. So if I go up here and I look at change logs, you'll notice that Marvin Crossnow just added a new vendor and a new location. And so now someone else came in behind Marvin and with that same vendor and location. Let's go back to that vendor. Let's go to that vendor ABC company, and let's go to the location, and let's delete that location. So now the location has been deleted. And of course, the person who deleted it doesn't exactly own up to it. So we can go back to our change log and we'll notice that Marvin deleted that. And here is a total record. And these records today are a little bit cryptic in reading, but it says that it was deleted by, and the user that deleted it is M. Crossno. So we're working on maybe making this easier so that you can go in and say, and ask questions of the system, who made a modification to this vendor in the last 15 days? And that it will answer that, but all the data is there to do it. And that's even with a location that I've deleted. Now, sometimes you inadvertently delete something. Now, if I had paid people at that location, I could not delete it. But sometimes you delete information that you really didn't mean to. There's enough information that we hold on deleted information to reconstruct it. And that's very important in an operating system. So, Steve, that's the story about change logs. They're ubiquitous.
Thank you, Marvin. So the next topic is budgeting. I bet this is one of your favorite topics, whether you're in management or accounting or any uh, any part of the organization that has to do with budgets. And of course, if you're doing budgeting, the questions you are going to have is, well, what was our budget last year? What was our actual? How does that compare to the year before and the year before that? And are we growing in as far as that expenditure or income, or is it shrinking? At what rate? Give me variance columns and that kind of thing. So wouldn't it be nice if you could build a spreadsheet? In fact, if it could be built for you to show you period by period exactly what was budgeted, exactly what was spent or earned based upon the type of account it is, by performance, production, or season, whatever level you want to do this on. And once you get your budgets the way you want them, if they need to be adjusted later on, you can have multiple versions of the budget as well. I spoke to someone earlier this week, in fact, who said, well, in our particular industry, in our particular kind of entertainment, it's kind of hard to project because it depends on what we're performing or what movies we're showing and that kind of thing. And so it depends if it's a blockbuster versus a flop, if you will. So they may need to modify their budgets throughout the season. So you can have multiple versions of it and then variance reporting. So show us how budgeting can be less onerous than it used to be, Marvin.
Okay, so in preparing budgets, most of you do it in spreadsheets. Well, what if you could build a spreadsheet in the Activity HD system that would be your budgeting spreadsheet? Now, this budgeting spreadsheet that we're showing you is overwhelming. There is so much data here. But let me give you, remember we said earlier, if you can imagine it, you can build it. So we have imagined a budgeting workbook that we can go in and fill out and produce our budgets. Now, producing a budget or making a budget in Activity HD is just posting the budgetary ledger. Just like you're posting the actual ledger, you post the budget ledger with debits and credits. So in this particular financial design, we have a budget financial design. Now, I said this is overwhelming. So I'm going to start explaining this one section at a time. First of all, this area here called projected budget is my budget for the next year, starting in July. So the numbers that I need to fill out are the numbers in this column right here. This represents the budgetary number for the entire year for the next fiscal year. But now you'll notice that some of these, like this 134,551, is uniform over the year. So it's non-seasonal. So when I fill in the budget here in this yellow column, and I fill it in as 1,700,000, instead of 1,000,006 something, then it will redistribute that over the as a level number over the years. But many of you are in the event business, and many of your expenses are not level over the year. So if you look at another one of these numbers down here, let's look at this number right here for union wages. You'll notice that it is very seasoned. So there's a lot of seasonality involved in that particular budget. So when I change this number to $1,000,000 for the next year, it will go out and apply the seasonality. Now, how does it know what the seasonality is? It looks at history. So we involve history in these numbers as well. So you'll notice up here that I can look at the current year actual numbers. So here are all my current year numbers. And every one of these numbers I can drill down and look at the underlying detail. I can look at the first prior year. I can look at the second prior year. I can look at the third prior year. Or I can not look at those years, and I can look at a particular salaried wages here, and I can say, I want to graph this salary wage. So chart this selected number. So a lot of times it's very difficult to look at a spreadsheet and determine what the number should be. So many times it's easier to look at a graph and see what the graph says rather than looking at the numbers. So even though this particular spreadsheet is very detailed, we can take care of seasonality, we can take care of level throughout the year, but also you'll notice here that I'm only filling out certain numbers. Only certain ones of our accounts do I need to fill out, because many of these accounts, like salary benefits and 401k matching, can be calculated from the salaried wages. So I only fill out the salaried wages and let all of these are called followers. So again, this is a very complex spreadsheet to do your budgeting, but you can produce, or you can use this kind of spreadsheet that we can produce for you. You can take these and send it out by department to the various department managers. They can fill them out. They will send them back to you. You can review it. And once you review it and decide it's okay, you can just hit this one button right here, Post Budgets to Activity HD, and this will post to your accounting system the budget for the next year. Now, once it's posted there, you can use updates. You can have as many budgets as you want. You can have your original budget. You can have forecasts and all sorts of things. But we have the ability to do this because our spreadsheets are interactive and they are representation. We can pull in those prior years and you can make reasonable adjustments and reasonable expectations for the future. Okay, Steve, let's look at our last feature.
All right. That's cool how I can apply the seasonality to it. Budgeting, and our last is automation. Wouldn't it be nice if not only, well, you've seen a form of automation already, bringing in the ticketing data and avoiding all the spreadsheet nightmares that you used to have to do. Well, there's other kinds of automation too. In fact, what we're talking about is something that is very repeatable. It's the same steps every month or day, whatever period of time. And so rather than having to do it every day, how about just automating that and letting Activity HD do it for you? That way you only have to deal with maybe an exception or two rather than doing everything yourself. Marvin, show us that, please.
Okay, so in this particular case, I'm not doing it live. I'm doing a video because I'm showing you how we're going to interface to third parties with automation. Some of you may use Toast as the way you keep up with maybe your concession stands and things like that. But Toast is something that we need to go out and grab data out of and get it into Activity HD. You've already seen one of these with the Tessitura interface, but this shows how we can grab information through the API for other situations. For example, we're running this bot and we're bringing in information from the Toast system. We'll bring it in with the API rather than downloading spreadsheets and integrating it. So we'll hit the next button here, very similar to what happened in the integration with Tessitura. So we're bringing in, I don't remember how many days, I think there's about 10 or 15 days. Now I did shorten this a little bit because it took about 3 minutes to bring all this in. So I shortened it into a lot shorter time span, but it brought in this Toast 10 here. And in that particular Toast 10, there's over $500,000 worth of transactions and over 900 lines of data that were pulled into the accounting system through this automation. So this is just one type of automation that we do. And you can also see this from the, what else am I going to do here? Oh, so we also, anytime we have automation, whether it's Tessitura or this, we log so that you can always go back and see what happened during the automation. So there's a complete log in case anything happens. This log shows you every single step of that automation and a timestamp on every single step. So that's one of the things that we can do with automation is integrate foreign software. We can also do things like revenue, unearned revenues, unearned prepaid expenses, and things like that. We can allocate those with automation. Steve?
And of course, those are just a few examples among many of the kinds of things that we've automated. So we're coming to the home stretch, I promise. AP automation. Oh, AP automation. Excuse me. I almost bypassed a showstopper. What instead of entering invoices manually from accounts payable and then maybe having to send things here or there to get approved and so forth, what if you could just scan those invoices and automatically, through another easy button, I guess, they're automatically, quote unquote, keyed into your system. In other words, the computer does it, not a human being, and they're all there, and the system even attaches the original to that invoice transaction, and it just does it automatically. And then so all you have to do after that is, of course, when it comes time for payment, you can look at all your invoices by due date. We give you all the information you need about your cash position and maybe even a forecast of future income that's expected, and you can decide what to pay. So Marvin, as quickly as we can, why don't you show us that, please?
Okay, Steve, let me share my screen again. And what we have here is there are 4 invoices that have been scanned in and they're PDFs. You'll notice that if you look at them, this one is a little bit more difficult because it's hard to pick out where is the, how much do I owe? It's 3146 in this case, but I'm going to run the AP automation bot on this. And so on those 4 invoices, so I'll run it and you'll see that this is that file, that the file that has the 4 invoices. You can also map this up to an inbox so that if you get your invoices in an inbox, you can read them from there. But we're just going to run this on the 4 invoices and see what happens. So it will read those 4 invoices. It will import those 4 invoices. In the background here, these are all my new invoices. So it's processing the first one now, and it just came in. It's processing the second one. And so as those are coming in, I'm going to open this first one. I guess I can't, it's probably modal. So I could open another view of Activity HD, but I'll just wait until this finishes. So it's finished. It just imported those 4 invoices. This is the difficult one right here for 3146. It attached it. So there we can see that 3146, it did import it correctly. And so now you didn't have to enter anything. Automation pulled it in for you. And so Steve, I know you're ready to finish up and go back to work, but I want to go back and finish up one particular thing. Remember, We
Oh
had
yeah.
a we had
Yeah.
automation going to build a financial design, and that financial design was um, a, a cash flow statement, and that cash flow statement is built right here as of 148 today. So that's the one that just got built. And so with only those English words that I filled in, this is what it built for me. I didn't have to tell it how to pull things together. So here is a cash flow statement built automagically. That's a new word, Steve, with AI showing you your cash and cash equivalents at the beginning, cash equivalents ending, net increase and decrease, and it pulled and correctly put things into operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities with only that short description saying I wanted a current period and year to date. So it was successful. So think about how much fun you can have describing to the system what you want to build and let it build your financial for you. Okay, Steve, we're over time, so wrap it up.
Will do. Man, this is a whole new ball game here with AI, isn't it? It's amazing. All right, just real quick, a quick testimonial customer case study, if you will. Opera Colorado is among our happy customers that uses Tessitura. Their previous accounting software was QuickBooks, but we've converted many. In fact, probably more uh, uh, that we've created are from or converted are from Dynamics GP or maybe NetSuite. But QuickBooks is among the ones we can convert, and we can do just about anything. Among the benefits that Opera Colorado talked about in their case study was revenue discrepancies when they had to reschedule a production. And this used to be quite painstaking. Now it takes them 15 minutes, one click to assign deferred revenue by ticket type. You got a flavor for that already. Real time drilling down. That's the drill down that Marvin showed you 2 or 3 times, and their CFO said, "Well, we first were drawn because of the because Activity HD was so tightly integrated with Tessitura, but we saw lots of other benefits as we went forward." So, a quick word about who Accountingware is. We are one of the family of companies in a larger company called Conetrix. Uh, Among our customers are many in the auditorium and events, theaters and performing arts, museums, symphony orchestras, and operas. And actually, where we got our start a few decades ago, actually, and it says up above, we're about to celebrate our 50th year of writing and amassing knowledge about how to make accounting easier for our customers. But we got our start in state and county fairs. We do provide hosting, so we take care of all the ins and outs and the hardware and the updates and all those kinds of things. And we have our support all comes from US based folks. So at the end of the day, my goodness, accountants on the line, can you imagine all the time that you could save with some of the things that we showed you? And think not just how much easier your life might be, but what could you do to really contribute to moving the organization forward, giving you maybe more analytical information that you design with AI or other things that someone needs to do but nobody has time for. What a good just a couple of weeks ago at the uh, Tessitura conference, somebody told me that their last audit, I didn't get into why. The last audit was months long. Well, can you imagine if you gave your auditors the proper tools, the complete audit trail, the drill down capability, and so forth, how they could be satisfied, hopefully much more quickly, and be much more assured that your process is efficient, it's repeatable, and at the end of the day, you spend less time on those books and more on the mission of your organization. So as we wrap up, we would like to invite each of you, if you saw something here that piqued your interest, Let's talk about your unique challenges, your unique requirements. Based upon what we talk about, we can develop a customized demonstration to show you much more than what we are able to do today, but based upon the kinds of things that we talk about. Now, again, we're about to end here, but don't forget to stay online and fill out this survey, and you'll have a chance. My goodness, your odds are infinitely better than the lotto. Of course, the prize isn't quite in the millions of dollars. It's $25, but nonetheless, one lucky person will win that card today. Thank you so much for your time. We apologize for going over a bit, but we hope that you saw some things were exciting, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thank you very much.